Welcome back. You're watching Deal Makers, and we were discussing the various structures that the MNCs have been deploying to increase their share in the India pie. And let me come to Mr. Singhvi then. Maruti, a case in point, there has been a lot of debate about the way Suzuki has tried to set up a 100% subsidiary while they have a listed Indian arm in India.
Sure. Actually, I want to take this matter a little more broader of Suzuki's behavior with the minority shareholders in India. So I'm not restricting only to their decision of setting up a 100% sub here, doing the same thing. But when you look at the royalty payment made by Maruti to Suzuki for last several years, you see a pattern. That in fact, last year we analyzed the number, and last year Suzuki's total global PAT, half of it came by way of royalty from Maruti. So there has been a sort of, shafting the minority shareholders here. And the second is setting up a 100% subsidy. And I have an issue with Maruti board here, represented by Mr. Bhargav, who has been championing the cause and who has gone on record and saying that this is going to create the value for Maruti shareholders. I find it very, very difficult to understand that how could Maruti, when they are going through this whole phase of growth and all that, allowed the parent to set up a 100% subsidy and not having the growth coming to the Maruti. If Maruti did not have the money, then perhaps they would have been right. Now to say yen is cheaper than rupee is an absurd debate, to say the least.
Mr. Shroff, I wanted to understand, in these kind of cases, not in specific to Maruti or Suzuki and the way they have, but it's legally right. Some of these companies have followed all the regulatory framework, have passed the legal test, and have also followed the principles of corporate finance to their benefit. So where does that conflict come in really? Is it just a trust deficit?
No, I don't think there's a legal angle to it. It's a broader business and governance topic, and the answer to that can vary depending on the facts. So I don't think we should elevate it to a legal, it's not a legal issue.
I get your point. And Mr. Sangai, then, how difficult is deal making becoming in such a scenario when all these structures have been questioned? Are more innovative structures expected when MNCs are going to increase their foothold in India?
I think by and large, if you see, large part of the deals which has happened are all through the very straight structure. And where the Indian shareholders or the shareholders in general, whether Indian or FII, all public shareholders have been benefited. Most of the open offers or even the merger transaction has happened at the premium to market, right? So obviously to that extent they have been benefited. Where MNC group of companies, if you see all of them put together across the different sectors, trade is significant premium to the peer group of the Indian companies. Maybe the performance, but overall there is a premium obviously. So overall there is a benefit to the public shareholder definitely.
Do you think, Mr. Singhvi, being a voice of the minority shareholders in some form, you think that more disclosures, better disclosures while deal making in amongst the companies would make a huge difference when it comes to the shareholders having more faith in the MNCs?
Definitely two things. One is more disclosure, and secondly, putting this onus on the independent directors.
Do you agree with that, Mr. Sangai? Now there are many more, disclosures given.
No, I think there is definitely a lot more scrutiny now in terms of not only from the public shareholder, but also by the board, given the corporate governance norms, etc., by the regulator, and by the courts, by everyone actually, and ultimately by the market.
Yes. What else needs to be done, Mr. Shroff? And do you think that with Companies Act in full force in the next few months, it will make a huge difference?
It will make a difference the other way. I think currently there are so many ambiguities in the Companies Act that I think it will actually impact business negatively. Actually, minority protection has taken a huge beating. For a non-controlling strategic or a financial investor, they practically have no rights. So if you look at it from a foreign investor's point of view, you're telling them that you can have no rights of any nature in India, even if you come and invest hundreds of millions of dollars, come only as a member of the public. You can't even have basic minority protection rights that are available anywhere in the world. And this, I think it is actually a very negative message that we are sending out inadvertently.
You agree with that, Mr. Sangai?
This point is very important for just the minority shareholder, someone like a private equity investor, right? So private equity is not in the control. They do not, they are like any other minority shareholder. And they, because the significant nature of the holding, they would want some understanding, some rights, may not be control or anything of that nature, but something which protects their investment. But unfortunately, the clarity around that is not really there. And then if we really take care of some of those things, we'll see a lot more inflow coming into the country, given the overall the growth story.
Hostile regulatory environment.
Mr. Singhvi, what is your thought on that hostile regulatory framework?
One share, one vote. Okay, so I can't say that I have 100 shares, so my vote should be 110. It can't be there. One share, one vote. So if I have 100 shares, if I have a right, so even if you have 100 million shares, you have the same right.
And Mr. Sangai, I'll let you have the last word in this discussion. All that we have discussed, of course, there are a lot of uncertainties, a lot of things that need clarity. But given all this, are the MNCs still looking at entering India?
Both for MNCs who are existing, already in existence in the country for many years, they are looking to increase their stake. You have seen some examples because the regulatory framework allows them. The sectors we have opened up recently. You named that, aviation, we saw FDI coming in. Telecom, the moment it became 100%, you saw FDI coming in there. So the sectors where we are opening up, additional money coming in, all of that indicates that there is still India shining is very much there, right? So there is people who are wanting to come into country, wanting to do business, and there is money out there clearly to be deployed in India. So it is not a negative story. I am very bullish. I think there is FDI would continue to come in the country.
All right, so that's a very positive commentary coming in from one of the top global bankers in India. And with that, we end this discussion. Of course, positivity is still there and lots more MNC deals are going to happen. But next time on Deal Makers, we'll come up with another hot debate on the deal street. Stay tuned to ET Now. Thanks so much.